Well, good evening. It's Dr. Andrea Davis here again, and this time I'm here with Chloe Estelle, who's the founder of autism.com, which is an amazing website. She's a blogger, she's an influencer, she's a filmmaker, she's a photographer. She really specializes in Asperger's and people helping themselves. So she started a mentorship program as well at autism.com. So we really want to hear all about what she's up to. And so take it away, Chloe. Let us know what you're up to and why you're up to that.
Yeah, I think that it's important to get as many stories from autism, about autism, from the perspective of someone with autism out there, because there's just not enough information from the actual community of people with autism. And I think getting as many stories out there can just normalize the neurodiverse community and just make people aware and more accepting of what autism is, and that it's not so scary, and it's not all negative. There's so many positives, and there's like so much about it that happens behind closed doors that's private, that people don't know about. And so I try to do it in a less invasive way, so that people know about those things that are happening every day, and are aware that there's life out there that's different than their own, and that's okay. And so I think it's important, that the autistic voice is important. And I think that, especially my experience growing up, that was really invalidated. And so I wanted to create a place in or a space, or whether it's online or physical, that autistic voice was the most important voice in the room, because that is the voice that my nonprofit serves. And to look at that autistic person as more than just the autistic person, as a whole person, because everything affects everything, whether it's your gender, your age, or so many, your orientation, your comorbidities. Like, there's so many things, and that affect everything and affect your entire being and your whole life. And so when we look at someone, it's like a case-by-case basis and very individualized, because there's so many factors to a person. And just creating your service just for autism, I don't know how you do that, because there's so much more to a person than just one diagnosis. Normally there's multiple, or there's family backgrounds, or cultural backgrounds that are different. There's so many different things about people, and that all affects everything. And so you can't just like take the autism out of a person and be like, we're just gonna focus on that part. That's not how life works. Life is very messy and complicated and intermingling. And so, especially my experience with it, there's definitely people on the outskirts of autism, because they are also other minorities, or because of orientation, because of race, because of all these different factors. And so we think about that when someone comes to us. And I think about that when I'm telling someone a story, and all that's important to me. And it should be important when we see people as, we see their autism, but we also see, everything else about them.
Absolutely. And you mentioned people's story, and your story was really quite gripping, in fact, in terms of how you came to realize this was so important in your own experience of receiving services.
Yeah, I went through so many services. I was diagnosed at 16, so I missed like the younger years, and all like that. And I know there is definitely a lot of fear mongering of like, the earlier you get stuff done, the better, and the and it's like too late at a certain point. And none of that's true. I didn't have any services till I was 16, and I went through services that actually set me back and were not the right services, where I felt very invalidated and shut down. And then I found some really great services, and the ones that really fit me were more individualized, were founded and run by people who, you know, were on the spectrum, or at least were listening to the voices and input of people on the spectrum who, you know, had input into how the service was run, and they were more individualized. I remember, like, when I was 17 or 18, I went on an autism retreat, and that was so eye-opening to suddenly be in the majority instead of the minority, where like everyone around me was autistic, and how accepting that was. And like, why am I allowing myself to be surrounded by people who aren't accepting of my whole being? And I started looking for places that were like that. And I found they're out there, and they're just like trying to find people, and they're competing with these places that have been around for a long time but haven't changed, you know, with research and with time. Because when it was first, you know, when we first found out about autism, it was a whole different ballgame than it is today, and that's okay. Like, we learn as we grow and time passes.
That's right. Do you have some tips for parents? I know you do a lot of work trying to help parents understand their children or their young adults, and so right now, does anything come to mind that you think you would really want to get out there for our parents?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is that I just wanted people to believe I was always trying my best. That's starting there, because when you approach someone as, you know, doing their best to get through life, you're always going to get a better response than if you just assume something. Like, if you put some story on them, like, oh, they're lazy, oh, they're this or they're that, you're not, you know, especially if you're dealing with a teenager, you know, you're getting full. Where if you approach someone like, you know, behavior is communication. So if someone's lashing out, or if someone's, you know, appearing like they're lazy, it's probably because they're hurting. So if you approach it as like, you know, I'm sorry you're going through a hard time, and you validate them, and you love them, and you appreciate them and respect them, even when they're angry, or when they're sad, or when they're, you know, all those things, or lashing out, then, you know, you see them come out of their shell more than if you were to judge them. And there's so much judgment and correction of, and, you know, trying to fix that happens in the world of autism, and that I don't think I ever needed to be fixed. I think I needed to be accepted and accommodated and, you know, loved for who I am and who I was, and had, you know, space where I could be that, rather than, you know, be molded and changed and all those, you know, kind of things. It doesn't mean I didn't progress and change and work on myself, and but I wasn't broken. I'm just different, and I just process the world differently. And looking at your child as a whole complete being that, you know, is, you know, that perfect, and like is created as a whole, and not, you know, missing a piece or broken. You know, that's
Obviously you've blossomed into someone who's making your passions help other people with what they need to find inside of themselves, and you're a walking commercial for that, for the fact that you're not broken, that you have so many gifts, different talents, different interests. And one of them we were just listening to, because we heard some active playing behind you, and I think it was your cat. So I don't know if you want to introduce your dear cat.
Yeah, I don't know if I can catch her right now. She's running away. But yeah, yeah, she's my kid, and I try to accept her whole being. I think I've written about how I validated her and that kind of stuff. And like I try to take my lessons, even though they're animals, they want to be accepted and loved, and they don't want to be fixed and all that. And so,
Right.
you know, I use them as my examples sometimes when I'm talking to parents. And I don't know how they feel about that, but
I
they,
think that helps you relate to the parents and the parents relate to you, that you're trying to be a good cat parent, and you are, obviously. And that's beautiful. It's a beautiful example. And we're just really excited that autism is connecting people so much across from different using different approaches and from different corners of the world of different treatments and approaches. And so we really appreciate your partnership and our advocacy at the DIR Floor Time Coalition, and how you support us too. And so Chloe, Estelle, we're just really, really grateful to know you and to have you participate in our event today. So thank you so much.
yeah, I'm excited about this event.
All right. That's great. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.